Now, if you were able to increase margins on your time to line by 1-2 days,
Yes.
your leads to visit by 1 or 2 percentage points, your ups to demo a few percentage points, your entire dealership changes, your entire result and outcome changes everything. The higher the volume is, the more vehicles you're going to sell.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of The Drive. I'm here in sunny, hot Las Vegas, Nevada, with the one, the only, the oh-so-famous.
Wow. I love it.
Am I building it up, Dan?
Yes.
Did I really do it?
It's great. I wish I had this as theme music as I walked in.
I know, like
to the exhibit hall.
Like fireworks blowing off, here goes. I have Dan Trinidad with me with Benchmark, man. What's going on, dude? It's been a minute.
Man, it has been a minute. I've just enjoying the weather, enjoying Las Vegas, and preparing for an awesome exhibit.
It's going to be a cool show, and I'm glad we had a chance to connect, and you guys are doing some really cool things at Benchmark, so I'm excited to really kind of get into that. Oh, look, we know those guys over there.
Hey, car guys.
So we say hi to the car guy coffees. Hey guys, whoa! Sorry guys, this is Las Vegas for you. This is what happens when you wear an orange shirt and you drive around in a big orange G-Class.
That's great. That's props.
But hey, I want to kick off this podcast with a little origin story, Dan, because look, I'm always fascinated. It's just like nobody wakes up one day and goes, "Yeah, I'm going to go commit a lifelong career to the automotive industry." So Dan, how did you get started in this crazy old world we call the automotive industry?
That's awesome. Well, I think I was raised in the automotive industry.
Yeah.
My father's a lifer, 50, 60-year car guy. And being a young boy going into the dealerships with him, I always looked up to him and wanted to follow in his footsteps. So early on, when I was 16, 17 years old, he brought me to one of his dealerships as a porter. He thought it was important that I started at the ground level.
Yeah.
And so I can understand every aspect of the business. I quickly went into sales. So I wanted to start sales right away. I didn't want to be a porter. But he said I had to start as a porter. And the funny little story is, as I walk in one day, I said, "Okay, I'm ready to be a salesperson." They pointed a guy in the lot and they said, "Okay, I'll tell you what, if you sell him a car, you're ready." And, I was like deer in headlights. I stare out the window. I walk up to the guy and I said, "Listen, you don't have to buy a car, but please at least spend an hour with me and ask me all the information that you want to learn about the vehicle, because I have an opportunity to work here and my job relies on it."
Yep.
He ended up buying a $3,000 station wagon for me, and I got the job. So that's how it all started.
And you got the job. Well, that's the important part, right? Like you got the job. Okay, so let's fast forward now. So you've been in the business a long time. You've seen this industry go through many different stages. You've seen recessions, you've seen ups, you've seen downs, and you decide to go build this cool product, Benchmark. I'm curious, man, what was kind of that aha moment? What was this like, hey, this is the big problem, let's set out to solve it? What did that look like for you?
So that question is, I would say there's two layers to that question. The first being, how I was always fascinated by marketing, and I delved into marketing 20 years ago, and I did ads and SEO, and I provided all these services that I thought were providing my clients a great return. But when they look at return on investment, they're ultimately looking at sales and revenue. And what I learned was there are so many steps to the sales chain, which is your inventory management, your lead handling, your internal sales processes, and ultimately financing and delivering a vehicle. So no matter how well I did on the marketing end, I used to be incentivized on performance. I wouldn't get paid out in the back end. So that was the initial, drive behind creating the sales funnel and Benchmark data suite and bringing these solutions to the table. But what really changed the trajectory was consulting dealerships the past 10 years and understanding their level of intricacy and their challenges within a dealership with processes and performance metrics. And over, I would be lying to you if I said, we created this great dashboard on our own. It's truly been with our dealer partners, and they've told us about their pain points. And I have some awesome, what we call them super users, that help guide and shape our dashboard. And we're presenting metrics that they wanted.
So, okay, I can kind of get this. So you're doing the marketing thing and you can see how you're generating all these opportunities, these leads, these opportunities, but hey, these opportunities are only as good as how well they ultimately get executed on, right? I mean, we've this industry is made up of people, technology and processes. And when those three things are in line, it doesn't matter how amazing the marketing is. It doesn't matter how many leads come in. It just falls apart. So, and I'm with you, dude. Look, if I was to go build anything right now, 100% it would be process, right? Because it supports, what we're always saying about our industry. This is a people business, right? It is still and always going to be a people business, but our people is only as effective as how well we're executing the processes that we have designed and set for those people, but not only how well they're executing, but how well we can measure the efficiency of that execution. So I get it. I 100% get it. So let's get into like the nuts and bolts, right? Like, it's one thing to, kind of create a process, another thing to execute it. How do you guys kind of go about that approach?
What's really cool is we just launched a new feature called the Benchmark Alert System.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, when we first, launched, being a consultancy, we were used to being that liaison and providing the solution for them, taking a hands-on approach and being the actual super user of the software.
Yeah.
And we had some really good results and some, good results. You know what I mean? And then you have some fall off where there was no engagement. What I learned from one of the rock stars in our industry, do you mind if I say by name?
Absolutely.
April Simmons.
April is a rock star. Hey, what up, April? I know she's watching this.
And what's funny is I didn't know how well she received our software platform. And we recently went to a retreat and we were all there. And, I was a little nervous because we onboarded her over the 3-4 month period. And I didn't know what the type of a response I was going to get because there was little engagement. And what she taught me was when you shift the focus back onto the dealer and you have a champion of the software, there's actually better results that can happen. And April is crushing the software. She doesn't need me meddling in her business. She knows what she's doing. And because of that, we created the Benchmark Alert System, which whenever a dealer goes into the dashboard, they could set what metrics they want alerts on. For example, if it's sales, I could say, I want to know when an individual salesperson is taking too many ups above the store average, but is closing below the store average and is lacking in activity and beatbacks. So when that alert pops up, the champion of the software can say, okay, sales manager A and team A, I'm going to assign this to you. And you go into our dashboard and he can communicate via thread, and it can remain an open alert until it's closed out. It's time-stamped and everything.
So it allows multiple people to get involved into the process. Here's one of the things, when you first showed me the Benchmark program, what I saw as being one of the biggest values, and I'm kind of curious if you've seen this, because I've consulted with dealerships across the country, right? And I am still even surprised in 2024, how many dealerships don't have documented processes at their dealership. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you do, you're in the top 10%.
Yes.
All right. But there are an obscene amount of dealerships out there that, I've gone to, and I'm curious if you've seen the same, where I'll go in there, I'm like, what's your delivery process? And there are 9 salespeople. So I'll get 9 variations of whatever they think that process is. Do you see the same thing, or is it just me?
No, you're 100% accurate. And that's the difference, we call between top performers in the industry and dealers that struggle. We have a saying, and it's, if you cannot measure it, you can't manage it. And it's such an important statement because you have to be able to inspect what you're expecting.
Yes.
And a lot of the dealers that have challenges, they want to get better. I get up at 6 a.m. and I get online and I download the apps and I listen to these podcasts and I hear the sincere wants and need to get better, but they don't know where to go. And they're not measuring certain metrics and they don't have a process in place. So it happens. And the difference is night and day. When you sit with a top performing dealer, they have the shit in order.
Yeah, well, they do. They have their own. Well, here's one of the things. I've thought about this for a long time. And so I got an idea and I want to bounce it off you. All right. I think one of the reasons that as an industry, a very small percentage of our dealerships out there have documented processes is because, when we put someone into a manager position, we don't teach them to become leaders. Like I know I wasn't. I mean, literally, I was hey, you're getting a promotion. We're making you a floor manager. And I thought my job was to manage 13 people's schedules and tell people to shut the hell up and get back to work. I literally thought that was the extent of my job. Well, and some reports. But I'm curious, do you see the same thing?
Well, I think what usually happens is you get promoted based on your own personal sales performance. And you might execute well on what you do, but you might not know how to translate that or educate the next person.
Yes.
It happens across many industries.
Yeah, how do you do that knowledge transfer, right?
Yeah, and you need to have a deep understanding of your own personal process and a lot of patience with people to execute. And what's good is once you start to train and develop, your team, you have a 30, 60, 90-day purview, and where you can establish benchmarks to see if there's growth or not, because not everyone is trainable, and you really need to learn. Honestly,
yeah.
you're spending.
Let's face it. Not everybody is.
You're investing so much money on marketing and inventory and getting them into the dealership. You need to know who's handling those opportunities, and maybe there's a better position for them within your team or within your dealership. It could be lead handling. It could be the back and fixed ops. Who knows where it's at.
No, actually, you brought something up because I'm thinking, I think there's just so many cool things about, I think, what you guys have put together, but you hit something on that knowledge transfer. And maybe this is me putting my dealer principal hat back on, right? And going, like as a dealer principal, I spent hours late at nights writing in notebooks, defining what this customer experience was going to be and all of the processes that were going to need to be executed to ultimately create this experience. And then I had to knowledge transfer that over to my management team, but it's like a game of broken telephone, like I didn't have a tool where we can map out the process and then effectively measure how well it's being executed.
Correct. And that's huge. But I think we also have to understand is entrepreneurs have a different motor, a different mindset. So when we know something and we try to teach it, we expect we're going to say it once or twice and it's going to be executed, right? Yeah. And we're never measuring and seeing if they're actually doing it. And, I'm guilty of that. My brother's the management that brings the management within our own team, because once I say something, that's supposed to be executed. So that's part of the challenge. And without having, like you say, a roadmap in front of you, it's kind of difficult to really understand where you're at.
Yeah. And you guys kind of come in with that framework, but of course I get to customize it according to whatever my dealerships, whatever, what it's my secret sauce, how I want to create that unique experience. You guys come with a framework, but we can move things around and customize it, right?
Yes, so to a certain extent. What we learned over the 10 years of consulting is we don't want to give the dealerships too much to customize because it gets overwhelming. So there's a framework in place, but they have the ability to say, these are the important metrics I want to focus on this week, this month. They can, alter or edit as they continue to go and grow. But we have a long list of benchmarks that you can establish. And, if we don't have one in the system, you could recommend it to us and we can.
And I dig this kind of like microscope kind of approach to it, right? Because, let's think of the, 47 processes, all right, that I'm going to put a customer through from the point that they say hello to the point where they're trading in for their next vehicle and everything in between there. That's a lot. That's a lot to look at. And that just feels, like too much. So to be able to kind of hone in this month on, these 2 or 3 processes, and then maybe next month focus on those 2 or 3 processes, it's kind of that it's called the snowball effect, right? Where you just like continue, it's like going to the gym. You just continue to get better and stronger and faster.
Can't fix everything at once.
Have you found that, because I feel like this would happen, but I'm just kind of curious, have you found that the team feels more confident and a bit more empowered just to like get shit done?
I think once the team is able to understand what their expectations are and what you're looking at what you're measuring them by, it's very impactful. And it's funny you bring that up, because some dealers want the data for the executive team and they manage the sales team and the BDC team, but they don't necessarily show them the data.
Sure.
I personally, and everyone does it different, I like showing everyone where they're at least once a month, so they can get an idea of how they're being rated and what their expectations are to live up to. And it's easy, and I think April brought this up, I'm going to bring her up again. You have an emotional state, someone who may not receive information well, but if you show them the data, it kind of sets them at ease and they understand where you're going about it. You also have people that focus on data, and there is no emotional state. And you got to bring that energy up.
So you get that development stage. No, I get it, right? Because like, look, I'm thinking big, it's almost kind of like my personal trainer, right? Like, look, I'm only going to progress so far completely on my own without measuring, all right, kind of key points in, in the time that I'm spending with them, right? So it's like it benchmark, fun, right? Like I'm able to kind of benchmark those, and it's like, I can see it from a training perspective. Not only to be able from, like, again, I'm putting dealer prints, I can flip back and forth to dealer prints manager hat real fast, but being able to see, holistically how my team is performing, but to be able to really narrow in on that individual. Do you find that that's kind of another one of the key reasons that managers are buying into the solution, is because being able to do those micro quick training opportunities?
When you see your sales increase by literally, and this is not just a number, 15% overnight without increasing your budget because you're more efficient with how you handle your sales team,
right?
It's a game changer. It's like if you sell 50 cars a month, 15% increase, and your average back and front is to a piece, you're 4,000. That's 30,000 more a month to gross. Yeah. If you're at 100, it's 60. It's literally that important, and it completely changes the complex or the outcome of your results for the end of the month. It really is. It's the easiest fix. It's the quickest fix. You're able to pay attention to it and make adjustments, mid-month and on the fly.
So, well, that's true too, right? I mean, I think too often, I'm just thinking back to, when I was really active in the agency side of the business, I'd be working for a large group and they weren't necessarily seeing the results. And what would be the comment I'd get? Hey, can we turn up the marketing a little bit? We're not seeing the results we're looking for, but, to your point, is that really what needs to happen? Or do we just need to make a quick adjustment to the processes that we're executing on, and not have to go, let's not invest another 10 grand into that campaign or another 5 grand into that 100%. Campaign, or do another private sell? Should we really be looking internally first?
And to answer that, we have another saying, and that's, you cannot fix a process issue with a marketing adjustment, no matter how many times you try. And I repeat, no matter how many times.
Say that one more time for the audience, because that is literally going to be the tagline for this podcast, all right?
You cannot fix a process issue with a marketing adjustment, no matter how many times you try. And the reason why we say that, so in the very first page of the dashboard, we have a funnel. It's an executive view. It's if you only have 30 seconds to view on how your dealership's performing, look at the funnel. And it's outlining your marketing, inventory, lead handling, and sales performance metrics all in one area. And you can see where the leak is at. And that's where you want to address. You don't want to reinvest in marketing when you're having other challenges within the dealership, because you're going to be throwing good money after bad money. And obviously no one wants to do that.
No, you're 100% right. But we see that happen
all the time. All
the time, right? Like we see that, like we're going to throw money at the problem, or what we'll do is we'll throw people at the problem. What we need to be doing is throwing a process at the problem.
Yes.
And then and obviously you have to be able to measure that. Okay, now let's get a little bit into, because I'm curious, because just all of the cool things you get to see, all the different dealerships and different structures of dealerships and different teams and different sizes of teams and stuff like that. Like, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit on what would be the top 3 processes that, a dealership should really be focusing on right now that will make, significant changes, to their operations.
That's great. So I'm going to leave marketing out of it right now, because that's, an easy one we can talk about that all day.
Yes.
But I would say inventory management, inventory retailing is the first thing on the board.
Okay.
And it's your time to line. Your reconditioning time, making sure the car's available, because the pricing gets adjusted every day. Some dealers, top performing dealers, are literally 1 to 2 to 3 days max time to line, where dealers that are seeing aged vehicles on the lot past 60, 90 days are taking 14 days, 20 days, 25 days. And by the time that car hits the lot, you're already overinvested in that vehicle. So that's number 1 metric I look at.
Yeah, I like that one.
Number 2 is your leads to visit percentage. And we break it down by lead source. Okay. So your leads to visit percentage on your website traffic should be above 32, 36%. Mm-hmm. That's a really important metric. your leads to visit on your third party, you're looking at 12%. So there's a huge difference in performance metrics, yet we're so focused on over-investing in third-party channels when our gravy is at the website level, right?
Yes.
That's what's converting, holding our margins. And I think so in lead handling, it's really lead to visit is what we look at. And then within your sales team, we're looking at ups to demo percentage.
Okay.
And ups to write-up percentage. For me, I've seen the biggest impact. It's the ability for a salesperson to bond with them on the demo, collect the qualify them, and collect the information the manager needs, so it's a warm, solid turnover, so they can get them to that write-up phase. That's when the game changes. Outside of that, the last one on the sales metric is your be-back percentage and your activity level to get people back in. When a dealer is over 28% in be-back percentage, be-backs can close at 75, 78%.
Yes.
Where your initial visit's closing at 40, 45, 50.
Well, no, I like these, and the funny thing is we're definitely going to map some of these out. I actually want to dive a little deeper into these because all of them are super important. I think some of them I don't even know if they're necessarily even brought up. I mean, I can't say I know a lot of dealers out there that are measuring their lead to visit percentage. I mean, because talk about one of them, I'm thinking of like all of the metrics, and there's so many different processes that are important. But look, if I can't get them in the door, what am I going to do, right? I mean, if I can't even get them in the door, there's no way I'm going to be able to execute the 13 other processes that I'm going to get there. And then when I do get in the door, how many times that opportunity just falls apart because there's not a clearly defined process. So you're talking demo to write up.
Yeah.
Like that's okay. If I was to force you to pick like your top two, what would you pick?
I think from the sales chain,
Yeah.
it is your ups to write up.
Ups to write up. Okay.
But the disconnect is when, and there's two, I'm going to give you two examples.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a green salesperson and they're on the floor and they're getting them into the demo, but they're not getting them to the write up. What we've learned,
that's that sweet spot.
It's
right?
a sweet spot.
Okay.
What we've learned is they're taking them on the demo, they're talking a lot about the vehicle, but they're not asking them the qualifying questions that the manager needs to know, like, do you have a trade? How much, or do you own it? How much do you own it? What's your monthly payment? What can you handle? Just all the things that, a experienced sales rep might have and naturally
that makes sense, because that would be a natural breakdown for someone who has maybe been doing this for a long time versus someone who maybe hasn't, because it's maybe slightly uncomfortable.
And if they're in the wrong vehicle, you're not going to know that unless you get that information. So when you're dealing with the younger sales rep and that number is low, the training and development can come on how to genuinely qualify them conversationally. Yes. Where when it's an experienced sales rep and they're going for demo ratio is good, but the write-up is low, they're overqualifying. They think they can buy a car. They're doing the manager's job. They're getting rid of them because they want the next opportunity.
Yeah, they're going too fast.
They're going too fast. And what's funny is they usually have the most amount of opportunities, the most amount of ups in the store, and they're always above the store average.
Because they're just swinging.
Because they're swinging, and there's no follow-up process. So, and they close on an average of 30% below the top performer. So your top performer is closing at 60%, your bottom performer is closing at 30%, and they have 10 more opportunities than anyone else in the dealership. When you manage those metrics, that's your 15% increase.
Oh,
right
yeah,
there.
I was going to say, there you go. It's right there. And I think talk about such a timely, important process to be measuring. Look, 2024 is the year that we're getting back. I don't want to say basics, and I want to say it. I didn't say it. But we're jinxing us. I got it. All right, normality. But we're getting back to selling cars. All right, and it wasn't like it was the previous few years or a couple of years before that, where it was like that stage could easily be bypassed and results could still be there. Because maybe inventory was short or prices or whatever is the case, so that, yeah, I'm with you, man. So that one little sweet spot right there is where you're seeing the breakdown that is where people are getting that 15%.
100%. It's literally that simple. Now, if you're able to increase margins on your time to line by 1-2 days,
yes,
your leads to visit by 1 or 2 percentage points, your ups to demo a few percentage points, your entire dealership changes, your entire result and outcome changes everything. The higher the volume is, the more vehicles you're going to sell.
I love it.
There are tweaks.
There you go. guys, you got to get together with Dan and moneyball this stuff. Like, seriously, like,
I love it.
isn't that a great movie?
It is. I love Moneyball. I would love to take several quotes from there and just you put Benchmark on there and utilize them.
Right? There's going to be a bunch of memes for you right there. Look, Dan, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation. And I know when it comes to process and process development and process management, me and you could probably jam for an easily another hour or so. But for everybody out there watching and listening right now who has been kind of following along and going, yeah, man, this is cool. I really want to learn more. Like, what are next steps? What is the best way for someone to connect with you guys?
They can just go right to our website, and that's benchmarktm, as in trademark.com. You could schedule a demo. We actually scheduled a discovery call. We're going to learn more about what your personal pain points are and challenges are, and then we can lead into a demo and make sure we're a good fit. There's someone at the other end of the dealership that can handle our solution, and we go from there.
That's awesome. Hey guys, thank you for taking the time to watch today's episode. If you really want to take your guys' process and operations the next step, you need to reach out to my man Dan Benchmark. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Appreciate you.
This has been a lot of fun. And thank you guys for watching the show.
And guys, he's the rock star. The car is awesome. The experience is great, and I'm so glad to be here. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Dan. This is fun.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.